So, working on the driver's side bed rail for Noah. Yes, the heater's on. It's very loud, very hard to hear. But anyways, I already got the passenger side kind of done. I say kind of because I've got the bolts and the holes drilled, but the pockets have not been cut out, and I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do that yet. But I'll walk over here and show you how that's gonna come and go and stuff. So basically, this is what we're working with. It's 2.5-inch flat strap by 3/16, I think. You can see the factory bed has a 2.5-inch flat platform for bed rails and truck beds and stuff like that. That's what this is basically going with. I've got 3/16 stainless carriage bolt kind of things with square shoulders. I've got them drilled and heated and hammered, pressed, whatever you want to say, hammered in. Should have been pressed and made it nice. But anyways, I got that in. Of course, it's not bolted down, but that's kind of what we're working with, you know, like that basically. It'll be painted black or something like that. But yeah, anyways, but of course we gotta get these pockets cut out. I'm not really sure how we're gonna do that yet, but I want to maintain the full function of the bed, so I want to have pockets. I gotta figure out, how I'm gonna do that. But anyways, this is basically how I start doing this. Is I get my strap kind of position where I want. I got a little bit extra hanging over. I think this is like 77 inches from end to end. I got a little bit hangover so I can cut it and do however I want to do it, because I'm not really sure how I want to finish this, how I want to trim this end. But yeah, I got some vice grips holding it on while I'm drilling. That way I can go straight through the plate and then go straight through the metal. Technically, the right way of doing this probably would be put this since I got the stuff marked, all my holes and stuff marked, just put this strap on a drill press. I don't have a drill press because I'm poor, so I'm just going to do it all at once. But realistically, though, you could do this by itself and then put it on the vehicle and then just drill out the vehicle. That's probably the best way to do it, but I didn't do it that way because I'm special. But yeah, anyways, this is kind of been marked out. Of course, we've got our chase rack and bits and pieces and our CAD, a little sneak peek of our CAD up there. So that's basically what this is all for. And I want bed rails anyways, regardless, but you got to have bed rails to be able to bolt stuff like headache racks and chase racks down to. But anyways, so these soapstone marks here and here is the width for the uprights right there. You can see. And of course, this is the one mount. And of course, in the bed, you can see how the bed is kind of formed. It's got a little pocket right here for bolts and stuff and for whatnot. And that's where I'm going for there. And then, of course, underneath here, just going to sides. Kind of on this side, I'll show you. I'm going holes and stuff where it's still the main bed, so this way it goes through all the layers. So with this hole, it goes through obviously the top skin, the quarter panel skin, it goes through the secondary structural part, and then it also goes through the actual bed interior as well. And you can kind of see, I think over here, let me get in the bed real quick and I can show you this. There's a few spots kind of right here where you can see that where it ends. So like right here, let me see, turn the flashlight on. So right here, that's just the quarter panel, the exterior skin quarter panel, and maybe the inner structure. But but this seam right here is actually part of the bed skin. So going through all three layers is a lot stronger than just going through two or one. But obviously up front in the corners, we have to go to just the two because that's all we have room for. But anyways, that's what I'm doing. Also still got to do a lot of stuff. So got to do my angle iron here for my bed covers, and yeah, still got to figure out a lot of detail work, whether or not it's going to be my bed cover is going to be, sectioned off for our batteries and stuff. I'll show you what I'm talking about there. Once I get all this done, we start hanging the chase rack. You'll start seeing what I'm talking about. It's a little bit tight, but yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and start drilling this. It's gonna be a long, fun process of drilling out one size and then making it bigger, and then I'll go on the torch, heat it up because it's got a square shoulder, and we'll just hammer it in just like we did on here. You get it hot, and then you take a hammer and you whop the ever-loving crap out of this where it seats itself in there. Hopefully it don't warp as bad as it did on this last little edge. You see it's kind of warped during, I think once you bolt it down and snug it down, it'll be fine. But you can tell it's kind of wanting to warp a little bit because you got a little bit of heat on that strap. But if it had been a little bit heavier strap, probably wouldn't have had that big of a deal. Or if you had some angle iron, if it had been angle iron, which was an ideal as well, that wouldn't be a problem at all. But with the strap, obviously, being so thin, it's gonna be a problem. If you put that much heat, on that large of a section, you're gonna lose a little bit of. It's gonna want to walk, and that's why when you heat it up, you gotta heat it like this. But I'll show y'all. So, anyways, I'll bring it back when I'm halfway through. Thanks. So I got the holes drilled. Those are the old holes from the previous owner, but the new holes, much bigger. There you go. See? Very nice. I still got to e-coat the bottom where they don't really rust out. I mean, obviously they didn't paint this, but it is what it is. But anyways, I got to e-coat this but I'm getting ready to, one, get my safety glasses, but two, I'm getting ready to start driving these square shoulder bolts, if you will. Let me see if I can show you. I'm just gonna go through a test run just to show y'all, and hopefully y'all can kind of get the idea. Alright, so basically I have it set up kind of in a sort of like this. But whenever, say if we're going to do this hole right here, I'll have, if we're going to do this hole for instance, I want to have supports very tight and close. That way when you hit it, it's not, the metal's going to be hot, the metal will be really hot, so you don't want to hit it without any support. It's because it'll bend, it'll want to flex and break. Or bend, not break. Anyways, so I'm going to warm it with a torch. When I warm it, I'm going to hold it like this, straight up and down, vertical, and I'm going to warm it kind of from here, just from the side. That way, as it's getting hot, the metal is not wanting to droop, I'm going to warm it like this instead of like this. If you warm it like this, the metal is going to want to start kind of falling on its own weight. If you do it like this, it's a lot stronger for that kind of situation. So if it's vertical, straight up and down, it's not going to want to droop, at all. So definitely when you're warming it up, warm it up like that. And then when you're ready to put it in, put it on your platform, while it's red hot, take your bolt with gloves, drop it in. If you want to orient it, you can. I just kind of, where they feel I hit it, and then take your hammer, it's over here, oh god, and then just go boom while it's still red hot. And then if you bend it, if the metal does want to bend, just while it's still warm, just kind of push it out with your glove and kind of bend it up and down, with the gloves and stuff, and leverage it to kind of flatten out. And it's not that bad. But yeah. Obviously, I would pick an end and then work all your way down. That way, you're not having to grab hot. You can just keep grabbing cold metal, so to speak. That way, you're not grabbing, kind of hold warm, hot, burning hot metal. But yeah, so definitely kind of go, kind of procedure, and then make sure too, mine are pretty much dead center of the hole, so it don't really matter if I do it up, if I put the bolts, with this face, in down on this face, or that face, because they're dead center, so it's the same thing. But if you are doing this and your holes are offset, off the center axis, then yeah, you make sure you want to make sure you're putting the bolts and driving the bolts on the right face, for the right direction. Now, if that makes any sense at all. Basically, what I'm saying is, if your holes are, off center of the axis, and it will only work on that one side, make sure your bolts are going down on the right side, on the right, angle, because, if you put it like this, but yet it was supposed to be like this, essentially, then it's not going to work. So, if that makes sense, yeah. So I'm getting ready to drive my square shoulder bolts. This probably isn't really the right way of doing it, but this is how I'm doing it. I'm taking a torch, taking my 2.5-inch strap. I'm gonna hold the strap, vertical up and down like this. I'm gonna take the torch and heat up around the holes until it's glowing hot, all the way around it, and then, but also being vertical like that way it don't bend. Because if you heat it up flat like this, it's gonna want to bend on its own weight. So make sure you do it like this, warm it up like this. But once it's hot, I'm gonna put it on my little supports, on my 2x4s. That way when I hit it, it's supported. I'm gonna take my bolt while it's glowing hot, glowing red and glowing hot. I'm gonna drop my bolt. Hopefully it's oriented the way you want it. With these, there's not much orientation other than the numbers, so just drop it when it's hot. Take your hammer while it's still hot and while it's supported, and you're going to want to drive it. It might take one good tap, it might take several good taps. Hopefully your metal's not going to want to warp. It's, these can be a lot, narrower, to obviously support it better. But, if your metal does try to start warping and start trying to walk, when you hit it, just, while it's still warm, just try to straighten it up, and we'll use the boards for leverage to kind of, straighten it up and true it up a little bit. But long as you're dead center on your supports and you're good, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Are very minimalistic, warping, and to a point of, it's not going to hurt it at all. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to start doing now. And then once I do that, I'll probably start trying to figure out the pocket holes and how I'm going to try to do that. I don't know how I want to do it, if I want to do a clean circle or if I want to do an actual square. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get these drived, and then we'll go from there, okay? Safety first. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to make sure I make sure I know which face of the plate I want up and I want down. That way I know which direction to put my bolts in. That's very important. It's very important if my holes are off center axis. Mine are on center axis, so it doesn't matter. But if yours aren't on center axis and they're a little bit offset to one end, make sure you have that right. If not, you'll have a bad day. Not really. Nothing that you can't undo, but do it right the first time. So I'm making sure I have my bolts ready to go. I'm gonna get my other one. I got 6 holes. I got 6 bolts to drive. Now, I'm going to start on this end, and I'm going to work my way down. So, I'm going to move my supports over a little bit. Again, I'm going to try to get it as tight as I humanly possibly can. Striker. Now again, I'm going to warm the metal vertical, like this. Trying to get red. Now you want to work that heat all the way around the hole. That way when we drive it, it can get a nice seat on all four corners of the shoulder. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna kill my torch. I'm gonna center up my support. Take my bolt, drop it, and then give it a good hit. I don't know if you can see that, but it's nice, clean seat all the way around. The metal is not warped. And of course, on this, being on the edge, it's a lot stronger than the middle, so you know it's the easiest one to do. But I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to move down to my next one. But what? Careful with my hand here, how I hold it, because I don't want to hold it where it's hot. Simple things, but you know we forget stuff when we're in the passion of the moment. And I'm gonna move over here now. That way y'all can see better, and that way I don't have to blow heat toward my freaking hand. So again, heat vertical. Got my torch, get it on my supports, and you got a little bit of time. The metal is pretty soft. This hole is a little bit loose, but still seated. You can see that. Kind of hard to see with the camera showing, but anyways. Double check, make sure the camera's on. Oh yeah, hell yeah, brother. Alright, so now we're gonna keep going. And yes, the 2x4s will catch on fire. It's totally fine. As long as you're not inside the shop. Whoops. Take my bolt, stick it in the hole, giggity, and there you go. Nice clean. On to the next. And as we move past this halfway point, I'm going to move my support block over to the other side now to start trying to support this thing. That way I don't try to get a droop, because it is hot metal and it will start trying to naturally want to droop the weight. So just remember that as well. Especially if you're doing like an 8-foot bed. God bless you. I feel bad for you. Like I say right now, it's starting to work, but it's fine. Just nothing. It'll straighten out when you're down there, so not too terribly worried about it. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to try to warm it up and let it clean itself out. Kind of like that. Not those. How bad did we mess the hose up? Ooh. Danger. OSHA, don't watch this. See? And it takes a little bit extra lops on that one. That was kind of weird. I don't know why they did that. But, you know, it is what it is. And last one. The last one's always the worst, trust me. Hey. It don't work no more. I broke something. I know some of y'all ag teachers out there are yelling at the screen. I don't know how to do this, to be honest with you, but oh shit. There it is. Watch this. Takes a while in the last one, tells you. Last bolt, drop it in the hole, and tap. Of course, it wants to bend because it's special. And sometimes you can just kind of bend it back while it's hot. So it doesn't have to be that perfect. I mean, the time you put your cushioning on the bottom and then start bolting it down and torquing it down, it kind of takes care of itself, truthfully. But there you go. Now we let this cool for like 10 hours. While it cools off and doesn't get hot before we put it back on the bed on the truck. That will probably catch on fire, I'm sure, but you know, YOLO. God, 16 minutes. Hey man, watch me do that. Wow, I'm fast. Anyways, I'm gonna forget that's there and go eat lunch. So while that's catching fire, turn this bad boy off. Ain't trying to bleed out the system, you know what I'm saying? Quit smoking. I'm sure it's fine. Nice. Anyways, this is basically the finished product of that, and this is I'm talking about those warps, but you know, it does have a little bit of a warp. You can see once it kind of stand up, but time you put your cushion between there and then one, you just do that, it kind of goes away. So again, it's not too entirely critical, but you don't want, you know, big swoops and stuff. So yeah, just, you know, be smart about it, and you know, it'll take care of itself. But it looks really amazing. My bolts ain't really lined up, are they? It's kind of lopsided, ain't it? Jesus Christ. It's kind of lopsided, and the one in the middle is kind of cocked off a little bit, ain't it? It's kind of like a I wonder how this side looks. What does this side look like? Not bad. But, oh well. It's been 18 minutes. I'm gonna go eat lunch now. Or dinner, or whatever it is. At, what is this? 9:42 p.m. So, yeah. Go have fun. I still gotta e-coat that underneath all that, but, ew. That's gay. Hey. Anyways, yeah. I hope y'all enjoyed me almost burning down the shop. Yeah. I'll see y'all in a bit. So I am getting ready to make my connecting butts, joints, whatever you want to call them, for my bed rails, and then my center bed rail connector thing. Lol. Let's see if I can real quick. Anyways, so kind of been going back and forth on how to really do this. I'm still not entirely sure if this is the right way, but I just made two little keys, essentially, or two little, plates that I'm going to drill holes in. But I figured I'm just going to stack them like this. Yeah, I guess you get the idea. Kind of like that, though, basically. Weld the furthest one closest to the bed rail, weld that to the bed rail, and then weld this inner one to the cross section piece, and then drill a hole down in the middle of the two, or down low here, and then just put a bolt in them, and that would be what connects, this this center crossbar to the main bed cap, if that makes any sense at all. I'm hoping the main thing is just to kind of make a boxing effect on these two, because obviously, it's not too terribly weight bearing. I mean, it's not gonna be that much weight on it, truthfully, but I just kind of wanted it to be just rigid enough, keep it rigid though, kind of help box the whole bed out, so to speak. But anyway, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm probably going to go ahead and just drill them individually and then bolt them together before I weld them. Then I'll have them bolted together when I weld. That way they're nice and tight, and the holes for the bolts are aligned. And then I'll just weld them on to their respected pieces. But see, I got four of them. Kind of all trimmed up and kind of cleaned up, kind of roughly. Just gonna rough, all clean, where the edges aren't too terribly sharp. But anyways, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna hopefully, once we get this boxed in, we'll start working on our mounts, our actual independent brackets for our main uprights that are down here. But we'll start doing those, and then hopefully eventually actually get started on the main cage, or not cage, but chase rack. But anyways, I just want to let y'all know what we're doing. I'm gonna drill these out, and then I'll bring y'all back in. So see y'all in a bit. So this is what my connector looks like after it's welded and stuff. Obviously this piece isn't tightened down, there's no bolt. But anyways, it's really simple. Just two plates, I talked about earlier, with a hole in each, and then you go with one plate to your crossbar, then one plate to your rail. And this basically allows us to maintain a flush top. And yes, technically, if we do a bed cover, we'll have to notch it around this little deformity, which there's always trade-offs, but I like it like this better than having an error up here You know, instead of it, I like it like this instead of being like this. Essentially, you know, it'd be like that essentially. But anyways, so it's pretty strong. And again, it kind of allows it to box it in a little bit. I still gotta do this side. I still gotta do this side yet. But yeah, so just wanted to bring that back in to show you that just kind of what we're going for. So yeah. So I am working on Noah's headache rack. Haven't got much progress done, obviously, because I work slow. But anyways, I was working on her main guard and kind of came into a design crossroad, I guess. Originally, I had planned, I kind of built this and designed this to have hinges here on this top edge, on the inside top edge, and where this thing could, you know, tilt up and, you know, hinge up like this and stay stationary like this, so you can clean your glass or whatever. Actually having it in person like this is actually doing that concept actually has led to another additional design ideal that I'll show you in a bit. And then the second thing I was thinking about was, or of course we have to modify this hard angle now that's already made, but if we made it pivot and swivel off of these inside center bars, which I'll try to show you now without it hopefully not falling and making a huge mess, make it where you could rotate like this and you'd still be able to clean all your glass and do all this stuff like that. But it would also add a little platform, but mind you, it'd only be as big as, you know, this thing. And of course you could add a platform to it. But the problem with this design, I think, is down here you're cutting into your cargo space a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, you're taking up all the space. You're losing a lot of, you know, storage, so to speak. So if I try to show you the other side or the other design, it's again kind of the original design, but kind of did not really plan this being this kind of good, but I think it kind of works out. Again, if you hinge it up here, which of course it's kind of hard to show in one-handed, but if you make it hinge like this and it sits up like that, you have effectively a platform like this without compromising anything down here, any of your storage capacity down here. And it's obviously this is very strong metal. And if you make like a prop rod to support that, you could potentially have a secondary level for, you know, small stuff, you know, toolbox, you know, small stuff, you know, I wouldn't put, you know, 10,000 pounds back there, obviously, but, you know, it would hold a little bit, and it'd give you an additional level for many things, you know, wherever you want to put. But yeah, let's see if I can show y'all this. Give me a second here to support y'all. Go. Okay. I'm sure the camera angle is not all that great, but essentially, if you have it hinged up here like I was talking about, it could basically go like this. And I don't know if you can see that, but it basically would be like a platform. And of course, you got to have, you know, latches and prop rods and all that good stuff. But then, you know, once you had this, you had a secondary platform. If you didn't want it, you could go back into its guard configuration, and you would have, you know, your regular headache rack again. Obviously, a lot of moving parts. It's got to, you know, almost probably be redesigned and rebuilt to at some point to accommodate that flow of movement and all that stuff. But definitely something to consider. It's definitely a new aspect I had not considered, and yeah, definitely interesting. It's really interesting. I'm kind of really excited about the possibilities that can come from that, because it's already overcomplicated and overbuilt as it is, but doing something like that would make it just that much more, I'd say almost justified. You know, it'd make it, you know, a lot more, what's the right word? More precedented, I guess. But anyways, and I kind of like this false, this kind of, recessed but yet protruded base. I kind of like the way it looks. It's a lot different. It's more different than I'm used to seeing on a lot of these things. But yeah, and of course we'll have filler, right here, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely gonna think on it tonight and see how I feel about it tomorrow. But it's definitely an interesting update, an interesting development, I guess, be the right word for it. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm gonna call it a night. Hit it again tomorrow. But yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, thanks, guys. Bye. So I am working on Noah's chase wreck, trying to start getting these wings attached, and then once the wings are done, I'll start making the actual shell. But anyways, this is kind of what it looks like now, at least what we're kind of considering here for a little bit. It's gonna have another ports, your lights, and then your main chase rack. Let's see, get down here real quick. That's kind of the side profile. It kind of matches the angle of the cab, relatively decent. Yeah, doesn't look bad, I don't think, considering. But anyways, so I'm in the process now of I'm gonna start making some brackets for these wings for attaching. I'm gonna make a like a 2-inch, take a piece, like a 2-inch strap, cut about 27 inches long. That'll go from about here to here, and I'll take 3 bolts. I'll take this bolt, the bolt in the middle, and then this bolt right here, and that will allow us to mount the winglet, by that 3 right there, and then we'll have some kind of either a K bracket here or a V bracket, like that and like that. So yeah, I gotta do that, but I'm gonna start with this first, and then once that's done, work on this, and then once we get this done, we'll have to make some kind of interior kind of run support up top here to kind of hold this top in, and support the top and to keep it held out and stuff. But during the shell should do a pretty good job of that. But if we're not running the shell for whatever reason, that way it's still supported. But for right now, though, we're going to start with this. So I'm going to go cut these pieces for both sides, and then once we do that, I'll bring it back in. So just wanted to show y'all a quick just process how I'm doing these holes. I don't have a drill press. It'd be nice though. But anyways, I got the holes marked where they need to be, and then I'm on the brackets. So what I have is a vise and a little hand drill. So what I like to do is I like to take a center punch, or a punch, whatever you want to call it, and center it out, and then make little punches in the center of all the holes. And then I like to take, these are kind of like, I like to call them pilot hole drill bits. They're extremely sharp and they cut like butter, but they're real small. I like to make pilot holes all the way around every hole I make, and I use this Forney Tap Magic, and it works really good. It always wants to leak, this bottle, but I'll put a little bit like that just to do my pilot holes, and then when I get ready to do my main bit, I'll have to keep putting a little bit extra on just to keep my bits cool. But yeah, I'll make my pilot holes real quick, and then I'll bring it back in. So I got my pilot holes drilled out. You can see the bits damn good. Just took out the entire continuous strand of metal, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so I got these started. Now I'm going to go back in with my main drill bit. This is the size I want. I have no idea what size this is. I can't read it, so I'm marked up. Anyways, this is the bit I'm using to clearance my holes for my bolts. So I'm gonna go back with that now, and then take a flap disc, grind up little high spots on the holes, and then it'll be good. So I just got done welding my K bracket together, which is very big. It's very big for me. This is basically, this winglet is basically mounted. This still needs a little, a few little, things here and there that needs to be done, but it's basically, it's mounted. You could pull out and drive on the road with this. It's not going anywhere. It's solid as hell. Like, it is not going anywhere. Anyways, basically I made 4 brackets out of 2-inch flat steel. I made the main base mount for the rails is 27 inches. I made a 9-inch piece for the upright. This is 12.5. Connect all 3 of these bolts. And then this is a 13-inch to connect these 2. And then basically what I did was I bolted all the brackets to their respected panels. So I bolted these 2 to this panel tight, this single bracket to the upright tight, and then I got it, and I did the same thing, bolted this to the rail where I wanted it at. Then I positioned the winglet to where I wanted it at, and then just welded it as it sat, and that's kind of where we're at now. Worked pretty good doing it that way. I'm pretty happy with the results. I've been really debating on how the angles, how the pouch kind of pitch and kind of roll to match the cab, and I'm pretty happy with this. You can see it kind of looks like the bottom or the front of the bottom of the wing is kind of kicked out, and that's kind of on purpose. And you can kind of see the back end of this wing wants to come in towards the inside of the bed, which is also kind of good because it kind of gives that kind of swooping effect. And then you can see we're pretty much flush at the center between the wing and the upright. We're pretty much flush, but then we start obviously tapering in. We're no longer flush, which we kind of start cutting in to the main upright, which opposes directly to the bottom, which protrudes further than the upright, which I can kind of show here. Not really. Let me see. There you go. So you can see where the upright is a little bit more, tucked in on the bottom, where that outside kind of protrudes a little bit. I did that on purpose. That way when you're inside the cab from the driver's side and the passenger side, you can barely see. Pretty much it's just this little slit right here. I'm probably going to put a little clearance light right here, a little ghost clearance light in there, and maybe some underglow right here, who knows. But yeah, so I'm really happy with this bracket, really happy with how this turned out. We still could technically remove it. I think this bolt would probably be a pain in the butt, but these bolts I think have enough inch. They're only a 1-inch bolt, so they should have plenty of room to be able to get out and extract to disconnect the main thing. If not, all this is for nothing, but still, I think we've got plenty of room down here. I might do a cross brace here and here, if not for support, for light mounting solutions. Make a secondary bracket to put a light down here, and have a light here to show you. Do a kind of a flat mount to kind of have a place to mount lights like this, or vice versa like this. But I'm going to hold off on doing those until I have my main chase rack on. That way I have a kind of a better idea of how I want to do the lights on this thing, because I'm still not really positive, 100% positive of what all lights and positioning I want to do on my lights. I know what types of lights I want, but I just don't know how I want to position them. So anyways, this took about an hour to do, just to do this little side and these brackets. It took about an hour to cut, drill, and kind of polish everything up and get ready for this. So yeah, I'm probably going to go back with some strap, just tiny little straps, just kind of little uprights, just to connect the main 2 pieces of strap here. Right now it's currently welded just to the thin original existing metal of the winglets. I'm not really confident. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but I really would just feel a lot better if I had, solid brackets, connecting the two good pieces of metal we know is going to hold. And that way we're spreading the load and the stress on this cheap metal, a lot further out, this bar being welded kind of all the way out is, a lot less, is a lot stronger than just doing these little edge welds. I mean, these edge welds are fine, I think, to kind of hold the gaps correct, but as far as structurally goes, definitely want to reinforce this, especially if we're going to be talking about doing that cap on here that goes on top. But anyways, so I'm going to start working on the other side. I may or may not do this today, I'm not sure, but I still got to drill a hole or kind of cut out this little area right here. You can kind of see how bad my planning is. Put a weld right on top of the freaking bolt hole, but yeah, but we'll I might have to cut that out a little bit, we'll see, but I'm not really worried about it, to be honest. If I think it's plenty strong with these two bolts down here and of course up here, but it's pretty stable at least. May not be strong, but it's stable. But I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna measure I'm gonna do new measurements for this side, even though they should be ideally symmetrical, and the passenger side brackets I already made should fit on this side. Ideally they should, in theory they should, but I just want to, I'm going to measure them by themselves and do it independent to each side, just because in the past I've done that before and it seems like it never actually works that way. So yeah, I'm going to make the custom brackets and custom measurements for this side as well, and then we'll go from there. And one more thing I want to point out real quick, it kind of gives you an insight of either how unsymmetrical these parts are or how bad I am at my job. But this side, of course, this isn't welded, this is still just sitting here, but you can see it looks the same. The winglets appears to be the same far as its torque relationship to the cab and to the body lines and all that. So it's basically, you can say it's aligned. It's where it should be, and you can see where it's positioned to the bolt hole. And these bolt holes are, I can almost guarantee they're pretty much symmetrical, because these were very well measured out, and they're pretty much symmetrical on both sides. You could pretty much interchange these rails, these these bed rails, left to right. So you can see it's got plenty of room right there. Whereas this one is, again, bracket's got the exact same correlation to the cab and the frame, so again, it's where it's supposed to be, but yet we've got it's almost covering the entire bolt hole. It's very interesting, to say the very least. It's really interesting. I don't know if they're that far off, or if I'm just that bad at this, or what, but yeah, it's interesting. But again, if you look from the back, kind of our general rule of thumb of aesthetics and appearance, that's kind of what the passenger side looks like, and then this is what the driver's side looks like. And you can kind of measure it's kind of hard to see on this camera, but the cab, the color of the blue of the cab is kind of what I'm using here for kind of a guide. But there's driver's side, passenger side. And you see the passenger side's a little bit further in, looks like. But anyways, so that's a thing that we'll have to address at some point. But again, I'm not too terribly worried about it. I think either way, worst case scenario, I can take a torch to it, and if I really needed to put a bolt there, I could put a torch and cut it out. We might be a little bit showing on this side, looks like we would be, but again, I'm not really worried about it, because this thing's going to be all blacked out, and time to put the filler foam and all that along the sides, it's going to be fine. But anyways, I'm going to quit my ranting, I'm going to work on this side and get this side knocked out, and then I'll bring it back once I have both sides done, and we can start working on the top brackets. So yeah, see you then.